Okay, so we've got some good split. There's a lot of focus on student school participation, not much on teachers. Some on test scores, parental involvement, all the above. For folks who either put all the above or the one of you that did teacher attendance, what was your thinking about why teacher attendance might change? I mean, the teachers weren't getting the incentive. Why would their behavior change? That's right. So we can kind of work through the parental involvement, where now all of a sudden parents are actually watching out. And we talked about how there's high teacher absenteeism in a lot of these communities. Now all of a sudden when they see that teacher, they may say, hey, that test is coming up like a month away. My child has a good chance of winning. She's a good student. You know, why haven't you been here the last week or something like that? You could imagine those kinds of interactions going on. So that would be one. What might be another reason why teachers would change? By whom? Oh, to say like, hey, we think we're going to win this, so we'll pay you a little bit. Or if my child wins, I'll give you a kickback of money or something. You guys have sinister minds. You should become economists immediately. That's how economists think about it. So that's possible. We did surveys among the teachers, and we tried to ask about those kinds of dynamics, and we didn't get any reports of that, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen, because that's the kind of thing people may not want to report. But it's possible. What other ways might teacher? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so maybe they think the NGO may do more programs there. Maybe the NGOs might give them incentives or something. So that's one possibility. Yeah. That's right. So if there's a few winners, there'd be a little bit of additional school fees. You'd get full payment for these few winners. It's not a ton of money, but it would be something that would help the overall school. How much of that would sort of flow back in to benefit them directly is unclear, because each of these schools has 400 kids. So let's say you did have 2 or 3 winners that paid in full. It helps, but it's still kind of let's say a small amount of the budget, but it's something that was maybe in their mind, and it wouldn't hurt. Did you ever hand up too? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so for them, now there's this program, their kids could get scholarships. It's, one thing I didn't stress, there was a public award ceremony and whatnot, so the teachers may just have been excited, like, hey, there's something to kind of work for and focus on, and they wanted their kids to do well, so maybe they put more effort into it. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I see. So now if the kids are going to school more, maybe the teachers sort of feel like they need to go to school more. I see. Okay. That's an interesting point. Way in the back. Yeah, people are going to pay attention more, basically. They're going to be kind of on top of these teachers more. Okay, so you guys raised some interesting points, and so we'll go through and look at these different channels and get a sense of where there's some action. But I'm emphasizing the teachers because that is going to be a channel where we see something, even though only a few of you thought of it first. Now that we've gone through it, there's actually a number of reasons why teacher behavior might change. And that's one of the things that we find. Okay, stepping sideways. Yeah, the right answer is, depending on how you look at it, it might be all of the above. But some of these are stronger than others. There's a lot going on in a lot of different dimensions in these schools once there's an incentive. Teacher performance, the parental involvement is maybe the weakest of them. But okay. So what about kids? I think this is where there's some interesting economic theory. A lot of this is actually behavioral economics when you think about it. Think about what happens when you introduce an incentive for a kid. One thing that happens is, if we think about the benefits of this schooling, we think about the benefits of working hard. Sometimes your parents say work hard, study hard, and that's going to sort of benefit you, but like years and years in the future. Like when you're for these kids, these are adolescents, right? So they're 13, 14. Maybe 5 or 10 years later, they'll see some benefit in terms of better job or secondary schooling. Getting an incentive like this makes the return quicker. Basically now, I take the test in November, and the award ceremony is in January, and we get cash, and it's now. It's in a couple months, rather than in 5 years or 10 years. So what you've done is you sort of changed the time horizon of the benefits and brought them closer, and that can affect people's decision-making if they discount the future a lot. And there's a ton of evidence from every culture around the world. It seems like it's a fundamental hardwiring issue for adolescents, but adolescents are very impatient. Actually, the older people get, the more patient they are. Very young kids, like my age kids, can't wait 2 minutes. They do these experiments like, do you want 1 cookie now or 2 cookies in 30 seconds? They're like, I'm going to take the cookie now. They can't help themselves. We try to, as parents, teach them to help themselves. But adolescents are better, but they're actually like 13, 15-year-olds are not that much better. They have very high time discount rates. And then as people get older, they become more and more patient. So, basically bringing the returns, creating these short-run incentives could be useful. The concern that's been raised by a lot of psychologists and sociologists and others who study educational systems is, when you are introducing incentives, even if you have this benefit of motivating people to work right now, are you doing something else that's negative? So, for instance, before, when these kids studied, they were studying because it was the right thing to do. They were studying because they liked the material. They were studying for, these other reasons. And now they're studying because of money. So the fear is, are you teaching kids that you only do something for money? You don't do something that's the right thing to do anymore. You just do whatever you get paid to do, basically. So are you eroding what's called the intrinsic, the internal motivation to study? And are you replacing it with this extrinsic driver, which is cash incentives? So one of the things we're going to do to try to separate these things out is we actually collect survey data from the kids that try to capture how much they like schooling and relative to other things. So we're going to actually see if there's evidence that the kids in the program schools just really don't have a love of learning anymore. That's one of the questions. We don't have the best data on this, but we try. What are people's views on this? Do you think that introducing cash incentives erodes the love of learning, or does by pushing people with the cash to learn a lot, are you actually igniting the love of learning? Go ahead. But you think it'll just amplify this rather than, so they already thought learning was cool, and now in addition to all the other great reasons to do it, like all that, you guys here, in this room, now there's money, basically. Yeah. Okay. What are other people's views on this? Yeah. Yeah. I see. I see. Yeah. Yeah, there may be this concern that the controls would get demoralized. I think what helps a little bit is these aren't the full universe of schools in this area. There's hundreds and hundreds more schools in this area that just weren't in the sample. So it isn't like most schools were getting the program and a small number weren't, and they'd be really pissed off. It's like whatever 1/5 or 1/4 of the schools got this wacky program, and most schools didn't. So I think your point is totally well taken. And I think part of this gets a little bit to the within school issue. Like a program like this, randomized within schools, you'd be really concerned about. Like, wait a minute, the person sitting next to me gets $10 or $38 if they do well on a test, and I don't. That could be like profoundly demoralizing. But at least within each school community, less so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Great. So yeah, Michelle. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a question. That's a good question. In the other paper on the reading list, we'll talk about the sort of 5-year follow-up of this study, where we have test score data and other information, where we can ask the question like, did the treatment school kids sort of end up doing worse or no better than others, over time? Yeah. Wow. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. I see. Can I start that in preschool? Is that something I can get going with? I'm going to talk to you afterwards. That sounds really interesting. I see. So, but the idea is you incentivize people, and they learn certain habits, and they learn certain skills, and they learn how to study, and they learn how to work hard, and then they take those skills with them. So maybe a short-term incentive like this doesn't demoralize you. It just pushes you into a new set of habits that are more beneficial. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so let's see. We talked about extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. We already talked about teacher effort and all these different issues, that maybe the teachers are altruistic, or maybe there's some community role that could push to better performance. I think we covered those points. We talked about the parental encouragement or pressure. One of the questions we get sometimes in the study is, were there negative consequences for the girls that didn't get the scholarships? Like, did parents beat their girls if they didn't get a scholarship? And we did do a lot of follow-up surveys to try to get at that. Didn't find any cases of it, but maybe it wasn't reported. So this is an issue. It could either be encouragement, which is carrots, or it could be sticks. It could be sort of negative pressure. But we'll go through what happens in terms of home responsibilities, at least, to get at parental behavior in a few slides. And we also talked about community mobilization as being potentially important. So now all of a sudden, lots of parents and kids and families are all thinking about this program. It's exciting. They can get these winners on scholarship. Is that changing behavior somehow, sort of in a broader way? Is there a change in social norms or a change in cultural attitudes locally because of the program? What other channels can people think of? Yeah. Yeah. No, they're all co-ed schools. Yeah, I'm going to tell you what happens to the boys, too. I was waiting for people to ask about that. I have the data on the boys, too. What do people think happens to the boys? Do they do better? Do they get demoralized? This is a little bit like the within-school issue. We were very concerned about this. And in fact, with the NGO, once we started doing some piloting, we started talking to teachers. Like, the first thing, when this program was discussed in a kind of pilot sense in certain classes, the first reaction we would always get is, what about the boys? Like, it isn't like these boys are millionaires either. They're poor kids in rural Kenya struggling to survive, too. They said, what about me? I mean, boys were getting very upset that they weren't included. A lot of teachers were upset that boys weren't included. What do people think happened to their test scores? I'll show you the results in a few slides. So one vote is for doing worse, better. So positive spillovers from the girls, Radhika? I see. So they may think of that. They may think that they could get a scholarship in the future. Yeah. Yeah. What ends up happening in a lot of these classes, we have some class rank data, but it's impartial. But in a number of these schools, several of the top few students were boys initially. And some of those boys, again, anecdotally, when we did follow-up surveys and whatnot, said, like, I had to stay number 1 in class. All these girls were studying hard. I needed to beat them. Like, we got all these quotes like that. Beat them in a good way. Like, be better than them. So there was this gender competition within the class that a lot of the anecdotal evidence came out with. And I'll show you, the evidence on the boys in a little bit. But that's one of the interesting dynamics in this study. Okay, so what are we going to ask? We're going to ask 2 questions. We're mainly going to focus on this first question, which is comparing the treatment and the control group. Some got incentives, some didn't. What happens to their test scores? We're going to use the same kinds of randomized methods you guys are very familiar with now after a few papers, and this is like second nature to you guys. And then we're going to briefly discuss a second question, which is what happens if you win? So what are these sort of long-term outcomes for the winners? You can't use randomized methods there, because there's no winners in the control group. It's only a subset of winners in the treatment group. And it's when discussing how to estimate the effect of winning the scholarship that we're going to turn to regression discontinuity methods, either at the end of class today, but probably on Thursday. And then we'll expand on those methods with a lot more data in a really cool environment with the Lucas and BT piece, which is on your reading list. So we're going to look at 2 different methods. We're going to add regression discontinuity to our set of approaches. The idea with regression discontinuity is you compare people who just won the scholarship, they just had a test score above the 15%, and those who just lost, and you look at their outcomes later on. So you look at people whose test scores are almost identical, but are on 2 sides of a very sharp discontinuity. The discontinuity is going from 0 scholarship to $38, which is a big jump. Pardon? Yeah, how the scholarship affects later outcomes, which could be the direct effect of the money and any behavioral responses that result from that. Exactly that marginal case. That's exactly right. You're getting at the effect of behavior right at that point, and we'll talk about the whole internal validity, external validity issue there, which is important. So we'll talk about that later. We're going to come back to that at the end of lecture day. Yeah. Oh, did we do it afterwards? I don't know if it was ever publicly announced. I think just the winners were announced. I don't know if there was certainly all that data was shared with the district education officials, but I don't think school by school we gave them the distributions and the cutoffs and stuff. We could have, I guess. We announced the winners and we talked about which schools had how many winners, but I don't think we gave them the exact cutoff. From our analytical point of view, we don't care. They just didn't get scholarship. It's almost better if they don't know. They were right on the margin. They just know they didn't get it, and there are people who got it. But we'll come back to that. I'm anticipating maybe a little bit too much. We're really going to focus for the next half hour or so on number 1, and then we'll turn to this other method, which is a very powerful method, although it has limitations. So again, we're going to get into what the assumptions are there. But let's turn to the main effects. First thing about this program, the randomization worked, meaning when we randomize schools into treatment and control, their characteristics look the same. And this is a lot like the deworming study. If you look at the age of the girls, they're about 13 years old on average. Their dads have about 5 years of schooling. Their moms have about 4.5 years of schooling. So on average, they're not super well-educated parents. But as I mentioned before, the parents of winners have much more schooling on average. There's about 7 kids per household on average. So these are big families. About half of them are ethnically Luya, which is the dominant ethnic group in Busia district. The other major ethnic group are Teso. So the Luya are about half. The other major ethnic group are Teso. We're going to come back to them in a minute. Luya and Teso, even though they're neighboring ethnic groups, have completely different histories. They come from different language families. So their languages are as related to each other as English and Turkish or something. Just completely different languages. And the reception of the program was very different in the areas that were ethnically Luya and ethnically Teso, as I'll talk about. Latrine ownership in this area, you'll see latrine ownership here is even higher than the deworming study, because this is a little bit better off area of Western Kenya than the deworming area. Mosquito net ownership, et cetera. And then the bottom here, again, are the sort of normalized test scores, mean 0, standard deviation 1. And we have different samples, because some samples have better baseline data and other things. But no matter how you look at it, the difference in average test scores at baseline is very small, less than 0.1 of a standard deviation unit. Remember, typically, gains of about 0.2 of a standard deviation unit are considered meaningful. Less than 0.2 are kind of smallish. That's what people say in the education literature. Okay, so this is the population, pretty similar to the deworming population. This is the distribution of test scores at baseline, where the blue line is treatment and the red line is control. There's no statistically significant difference in these densities. But you see they're a little different. The treatment group seems a little shifted to the right, although in most of the distribution, they're right on top of each other. Again, the mean is 0, and then these are in standard deviation units. So that's -2 standard deviations, +2 or 3 standard deviations. And what we've put up here is actually the delineation of the top 15% of baseline tests, just to give you a sense of what that kind of looks like in the distribution. So this is a kind of roughly normally shaped distribution, a lot of mass in the middle around 0. It's really, these are the winners up here. Higher than roughly 1 standard deviation above the mean. That's basically what you need to be a winner in this program, just to give you guys a sense. Okay. So what do we find? When you look at test scores for the girls, when it comes to the boys in a minute, on average, their test score gains about 0.15 to 0.18 standard deviation units. So this is sort of moderate, smallish to moderate on average. Not huge. That's the average effect. And this is the same sort of density I just showed you, but now this is post-program data. Bless you. This is post-program data. This is treatment and control again. What do you see here? Just visibly in the figure. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of feels like there was, if you think of the control group as the counterfactual, it kind of looks like there were just a lot of girls that might have been up here who kind of get shifted over here, right? The mass shifts to the right. So you see this clear shift in the blue line to the right. Certainly, remember around 1 standard deviation is basically the winning threshold. So you can see right around there, that's where a lot of the mass goes. So there's a lot of movement, sort of people getting close to that winning threshold. You also see that in the right tail, there's more mass in the treatment group. There's higher density there. What happens in the left tail? Is there anything in the left tail? Yeah. So here the left tails are right on top of each other. And here you do see some movement in the left tail. So these are weak performing girls. These girls are very far away from the threshold, right? And in fact, we have data on this. The likelihood that a girl who starts out with her baseline score way down there at -1 or -2, the odds that she's going to win a scholarship are almost 0. Yeah. There's sort of this bimodality here, right? There's this sort of mode here and then another mode there that kind of comes through where this mass shifts to the right. But if we were concerned that maybe the girls at the bottom would get really demoralized, like, hey, I'm never going to win this scholarship, you might have been concerned they would study less. That doesn't seem to be the case. If anything, they're doing a little bit better. Maybe because they're in class with these other girls that are working very hard. The other concern we had was it the case that now that the teacher was trying to get a lot of winners from this program, he or she was just targeting all the efforts of the good students? And then again, you might have seen negative effects among the girls on the left, but we don't see that either. So at least our worst fears weren't realized about what might happen in the left tail here. What else do people see in this figure? Any other kind of patterns or changes? Yeah, you kind of see that. There's, way up here, there's a little movement to the right, but maybe not as much. You see a lot of shifting mass, like right in the middle here, right? Sort of in this region, like we said, there's sort of, this pen again. Anyway, but you're right. Basically, close to the threshold and right in the middle of the distribution is sort of where you see more of the action. Okay, this is what the regressions look like. Pooling, Busia, and Teso. So just look at columns 1 and 2. Don't look at columns 3 and 4 yet. Don't look at them. Just look at columns 1 and 2. Column 1 regresses test scores, and this pools both years, 2001 and 2002, on the treatment school dummy. So this is the dummy for school I, treatment dummy for school I, say. The difference between columns 1 and 2 relates a little bit to something you guys did in the first problem set. In column 2, we include the baseline test score, the mean baseline test score for the school. What's the difference you see between columns 1 and 2, and how can you explain it? The point estimates are kind of similar, right? 0.18, 0.15. They don't change too much. What changes between those two columns? I hear people whispering it. What is it? The standard